Hello, welcome to the Sharadi Report. I'm Claude Sharadi. Recently, the ABC has been talking about the role of Christianity in influencing domestic violence in Australia. The ABC has published material online, on air, both on the radio and television, suggesting that Christianity is a problem when it comes down to domestic violence issues. Now, when you look at the whole thing, it is clear to me that the ABC has embarked in an anti-Christian campaign, and that's certainly very clear in my view, and I'm going to try and explain why. And ABC is doing so in a very opportunistic manner, publishing this material at the same time as Cardinal Pell, George Pell, is expected to answer questions about historical sex abuse charges. In my view, ABC's anti-Christian campaign is very disturbing, and it rests on misleading claims. It is also probably motivated by, I suppose, a leftist ideology to combat the influence of religion within the Australian society. And that's religion broadly, but Christianity in particular. I'm going to try to show you why Julia Bird and her court at the ABC are wrong and misleading. And I have to point out that I am not Catholic, even though I mentioned Cardinal George Pell. I am not trying to defend him because I have no interest in that. However, I am a Christian, a practicing Christian, and I feel obligated to do something when the ABC, a quite respected organization, trying to stay in the image of Christianity for their own whatever agenda they have. It is unfortunate that many Christian and faith leaders stay silent when these sort of things happen. So let us analyze what ABC has been saying. On Tuesday, 18th of July, Julia Bird published an article entitled, "Submit to Your Husband, Women Told to Endure Domestic Violence in the Name of God." That was the title of the article. It is obviously quite an interesting title that is loaded because it appears to equate submission to violence in some ways, in my view. In that article, Julia Bird is suggesting a lot of things. Number one, she says that the research that she looked at indicate that the men most likely to abuse their wives are evangelical Christians who attend church sporadically. And even though church leaders in Australia say that they reject violence, but there are reasons to think that the church is not just failing to sufficiently address domestic violence, it is both enabling and concealing it. This is Julia Bird talking. Well, and that is the gist of her article. It is a long piece that is also illustrated by a number of drawings that are suggesting that women in churches are suffering in the name of God, and the church is condoning this. So I suppose you get the point of what Julia is trying to say, but is there any credible evidence to confirm what she is saying? Absolutely not. If anything, the evangelical Christianity is a positive influence in families, preventing violence and abuse and making families stronger and more harmonious. I'll try to demonstrate this later, but let us first address some of what Julia is actually saying. Number one, yes, the Bible asks women to be submissive, but it says nowhere that it allows men to beat their wives. There is nowhere in the Bible where men are asked to beat their wives. Apparently there is something like that in the Quran. I do not know much about the Quran or any other holy scriptures, but I know for sure there is nothing in the Bible condoning violence against women. Christianity in general and evangelical Christianity in particular, more than any other Christian denomination, is a religion of peace. We all know about the saying of Jesus in Matthew 5:38-40. If anyone slaps on the right cheek, turn the other also. Jesus himself saved a woman caught in adultery from being stoned to death. Julia is suggesting that concern has been growing amongst those working with women that Christian churches of all denominations consciously or inadvertently allow abusive men to continue to abuse their wives. But unfortunately, she's not giving any evidence for this. Well, she's obviously an experienced writer and journalist, and she knows how to make false claims without appearing to take the responsibility for it. And that's what she's very cleverly done in her article. She goes on to cite one study by Lynn Baker in Queensland in 2010, which found that 22% of perpetrators of domestic violence go to church regularly. But where is the link between going to church and being a violent man? Where is that link? There is absolutely no link. If 22% of domestic violence perpetrators go to church, what about 78% remaining? Where do they go? How many domestic violence perpetrators go to bars and nightclubs? And I'm sure it will probably be over 70%, but will you say that going to a bar regularly makes one particularly prone to violence inside the home? Now, Julia goes on to give another piece of evidence from America this time, which actually undermines her main argument in the article, in my view, but she picks the bit that she wants in the article and drops the rest, even though the rest, in my view, is actually the most important. The research is from Stephen Tracy in 2008, and it says that, number one, that regular churchgoers are less likely to be violent against their women. And number two, that irregular churchgoers are most likely to abuse their partners. And when you look at these two things, it is clear that regular churchgoers, who can be assumed to be those who are really converted and influenced in their behaviors and lifestyle by their faith, Christian faith, these ones do not abuse their wives. Only those who attend not so frequently and who can be assumed not to be much influenced by their faith, who actually beat their wives. So how can Julia then think that somehow the church is encouraging violence when it is clear that those who are really true churchgoers and true believers are less likely to be violent? This research establishes no correlation between church attendance and domestic violence by male spouses. The best we can say is that research gives a direction to look at for more work, which may actually establish the correlation between Christian ideology or Christian beliefs and domestic violence. Also, another very important point in Julia's article, she quotes Professor Stephen Tracy, but she deliberately omits important details that actually contextualize the research. Well, Julia intentionally removes the part of the quote that would undermine her point, and that part is 1/4 to 1/3 of North American women will be assaulted by an intimate partner in their lifetime. We're talking here about America, and research done in America does not necessarily apply to Australia. Sometimes it does, but Julia should have said this. Without the reference to North American women, the quotes tend to give validity to the idea that all evangelical Christians everywhere in the world who sporadically attend church are violent abusers, more so than any other group of men anywhere in the world. And that is simply not correct. Absolutely not the case. Evangelical men who attend church sporadically may be violent, but they are certainly not more violent than any other group of men in every country in the world. To make that suggestion as made by Julia is definitely misleading. It is false. It has no evidence, and the evidence that she presented is not what she claims it to be. That needs to be made very clear. It is simple to understand that Julia has an agenda. It is clear to me that she did not go into her investigation with an open mind. She had a conclusion already and wanted to find something to justify it. She's on an anti-Christian, anti-religion mission to save women who are suffering from domestic violence within this social context. Julia could not provide any evidence whatsoever demonstrating a direct correlation between Christian beliefs and domestic violence. Christianity in general, and evangelical Christianity in particular, does not in any way encourage violence. Half-baked evangelicals who don't understand the Bible and who are prone to violence may probably use biblical scriptures and many other tools for that matter that they may have at their disposal to justify domestic violence. This is also the case of cultural Christians, those who were born in Christian families and communities, but who are not really practicing Christians. Such people can be perpetrators of domestic violence, not because of Christianity, but because they are violent people first and foremost. They don't have self-control. They have low education in most cases, not always, but in many cases, or have mental issues, or at times simply because they have been forced into a corner whereby they could see no escape other than the use of violence. ABC has no right to tarnish the image of Christianity where there is no reason to do so. Christianity is one of the most powerful civilizing forces in the history of humanity. It is a non-violent body of beliefs. It changes the lives of men and women for the better. Christianity should not be confused with the Catholic Church either, or the Anglican Church, or the Presbyterian churches. While these churches are part of the Christian family, but they no longer represent the true force of Christianity globally. And the greatest growth in Christianity family today is coming from evangelical Christianity, which, despite its shortcomings, like in any other group of human family, religious or not, well, this evangelical Christian group is empowering men and women to live their God-given destiny and lead their families, their communities, and their countries to get closer to God and leave a great legacy for their future generations. Christianity is not encouraging domestic violence. Evangelical Christians are not violent men because of their beliefs. Julia Bird needs to learn and do better. I'm Claude Chouari. Thank you very much for watching.